The evidence bag didn't walk out on its own. But somehow, I was the one being blamed. Until I opened the logbook, whispered Policy 9.3, and watched the room fall silent. It started with a routine inventory check, or at least that's what I was told when I was called down to evidence. I had just come off a 14-hour shift, my body sore from the armor and my brain still echoing the static of my last body cam report. I walked in expecting to sign something and leave. Instead, I found Detective Ronson leaning over the evidence locker with a scowl so deep it looked etched by years of contempt. He didn't look up when I entered, just muttered, "The bag's missing." My eyebrows twitched. Which bag? Now he looked at me. Sharp, cutting. "The evidence bag from the Miller case. The one you logged 2 days ago?" I blinked, caught between confusion and a sharp jolt of anger. It was secured in Locker 17C. I logged it myself. Time-stamped, access code double authenticated. Ronson stepped closer. "Well, Officer Carter, it's not there now, and the last name on the access log." He paused. "Yours." I felt my jaw tense. My voice stayed calm. "Then we checked the CCTV. Policy 9.3 allows footage review for any chain of custody discrepancy. I'll file for access." "Don't waste your time," he barked. "I've seen enough. The bag vanished because of you." He turned to walk out, and something in me snapped, not loudly, not outwardly, but deep, like a hairline fracture forming across my belief that good cops were safe from internal sabotage. Instead of replying, I moved to the terminal and began logging the CCTV access request. I cited Policy 9.3, included the locker number, timestamp range, and linked my own prior access log. The clerk behind the glass gave me a brief, knowing look, equal parts tired and wary. I was still in uniform, still with my badge, still with my shield. But I could already feel the shift in the hallway stairs. 2 hours later, Internal Affairs contacted me. A preliminary inquiry. No charges, not yet. But a cold undertone in the voicemail told me enough. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every second I handled that evidence bag. The way it crinkled in my gloves, the scuffed tag from the Miller apartment scene, the way it locked into the shelf like a puzzle piece. The next morning, the email from the prosecutor's office came through. Subpoena, 1182, video footage request from evidence locker hallway, dated timestamp. I barely finished reading before my phone lit up again. Private number. "Leave her," said the voice. Calm, final. Then the line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, knowing one thing for certain. I had just stepped into something bigger than an evidence bag, and someone didn't want me coming out the other side. They thought I'd stay quiet. They forgot I log everything. The precinct had its own rhythm, clacking keyboards, the low hum of dispatch chatter, occasional bursts of laughter from break rooms where loyalty was currency. But that morning, as I walked in, it all felt wrong. Eyes hovered a second too long. Conversations clipped short as I passed. The silence that followed me wasn't the kind you earn through respect. I checked my inbox first. A digital copy of the CCTV footage had been uploaded under internal server chain IA requests. Subpoena 182.mp4. I clicked play. It showed the hallway outside the evidence locker. The timestamp was precisely 1 hour after I'd logged the bag. In the grainy footage, someone in uniform approached Locker 17C. Not me. Taller, bulkier, definitely male. No visible name tag. But the movement was unmistakable. They keyed into the locker, pulled out a bag, paused as if listening for footsteps, and walked out of frame. No hesitation, no rush. Like they belonged. I leaned forward. The frame froze for a brief moment when the figure turned their head. Just enough to catch the glint of a badge. Then darkness again. I hit pause, pulled the log, access log entry, 17C 2204, Officer A. Carter. Except I was at home by then. I had proof, personal CCTV from my apartment building, a secure digital entry timestamp, and my own body cam footage ending at 2037. I filed it all into a digital affidavit. The pieces were snapping together, but they didn't form a picture. Not yet. I needed one more thing, the physical evidence tag. It was missing from the locker inventory system. But I remembered something. When I had originally submitted the Miller bag, I printed an extra copy of the chain of custody label by mistake. Instead of trashing it, I tucked it in my duty pouch. I dug through my gear, hands trembling just slightly. There it was, the barcoded sticker, now creased and faded, but scannable. I uploaded it to the database. 5 seconds later, the confirmation popped up. Evidence bag. M227349. Miller case. Contents. Phone, cash, blood-stained receipt. No longer traceable in the main system. Someone had deleted the entire record. I stared at the screen, and suddenly the room felt 10 degrees colder. I walked into the records division. Officer Munoz looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes before settling into guarded neutrality. I need an audit trail for bag M227349, I said. Everything, including deletion logs. He hesitated. You might want to talk to Sergeant Fields about that. She requested full access to the Miller Evidence Index last night. Fields, my former supervisor, now head of training and compliance. I thanked him, turned away, and typed one final request before lunch. Requesting system logs under Policy 9.3 Addendum C, Unauthorized Data Deletion Audit. As I clicked Submit, my phone buzzed. No name, just one word. Digging. I turned my phone face down and walked to the elevator. Somewhere between the locker and the system logs, someone made a decision that bag had to disappear. But I had copies, backups, timestamps, CCTV, and my own quiet rage. What I didn't have yet was motive, and motive is what turns suspicion into prosecution. They thought wiping logs would erase the truth. But they forgot I print everything. Drop your theory in the comments. Who deleted the logs and why? She logged it, they erased it. Stay with her. I found Sergeant Fields in the training wing, her office lit by slanted afternoon sun and the glow of her dual monitors. She didn't flinch when I knocked, just turned slowly in her chair, folding her hands on the desk like a principal about to scold a student. Officer Carter, she said smoothly, to what do I owe the visit? I closed the door behind me. I need to know why you accessed the Miller case archive last night. The digital trace is on the server. Audit trail from records confirms it. Her mouth twitched just slightly. Not a smile. More like a tick. That's well within my authority, she replied. Training and compliance reviews flagged case procedures. Routine. Did the routine include deleting a chain of custody entry or reassigning locker logs under my ID? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached for a folder on her desk, opened it with deliberate calm, and pushed it across to me. Inside, a printed photo of the Miller evidence bag, torn open, its contents missing, no timestamp, no log, just a red marker circle around the tag, my tag. I was trying to spare you, she said finally. You're good, Aisha. Clean. That doesn't protect you anymore. I stared at her. Who ordered this? She leaned back in her chair. This isn't a who. It's a what. The case you're digging through, it's the kind that needs to disappear. You don't get promoted for asking the right questions. You get disappeared for asking them at the wrong time. I stood frozen. Every instinct screamed at me to keep going, but the undercurrent in her tone chilled me more than any direct threat. Before I could reply, her phone buzzed. She picked it up, listened for a moment, then said calmly, "She's here." That was my cue. I turned, walked out without a word, my pulse hammering so loudly it drowned out my thoughts. As soon as I was out of view, I ducked into the adjacent hallway and pulled out my phone. Logged into the body cam upload database, navigated to the timestamp when I'd stored the Miller bag. There it was. Body cam file CIS 04199, footage, locker 17C submission, full chain of custody visible. I downloaded it to a personal drive, encrypted it, and uploaded a backup to my cloud off network. Then I sent a ping to the prosecutor's office. Subject: Addendum to subpoena. No 182. Supplementary evidence footage. Enclosed. I didn't care who was watching. The moment I clicked send, I knew someone would be coming. Sure enough, when I stepped into the back hallway, a man I didn't recognize blocked my path. Civilian clothes, Bluetooth in one ear, hand resting too close to his waistband. "You're being transferred," he said with a practiced tone. Effective immediately. Orders came from command. I blinked. Transferred where? Doesn't matter. You'll get the paperwork later. Come with me. I stared at him. No badge, no official order, just presence and pressure. No, I said quietly. Policy 9.3. I request clarification in writing and a union rep present. His jaw tightened. For a second, I saw the flicker of surprise. But I didn't flinch. I had rules. I had footage. I had the truth. And now, finally, someone else had it too. By the time I returned to my unit, my login credentials were disabled. I stood at the precinct terminal, the same one I used every morning, and watched the red access denied message blink like a warning light no one else could see. I wasn't surprised, not after the stunt in the hallway, not after Fields, but I felt it anyway, that familiar mix of anger and cold clarity washing through my chest. I stepped away, pulled out my personal phone, and called the only person who might still believe me. "Detective Mendez," came the voice on the other end. Cautious, tired. "It's Carter," I said quickly. "Someone's trying to make the Miller bag vanish off the books. I've got CCTV, the body cam file, even the original chain of custody tag, but my access is blocked and someone's fabricating logs under my name." A pause. "You're not the first to call about that case," Mendez replied. "But you might be the last if you're not careful. Internal Affairs is already sniffing around, and the prosecutor's office. They're watching." "Watching who?" I asked. "You," he said simply. The call ended without goodbye. I turned toward the door, but a voice behind me stopped me cold. "You're still working?" It was Lieutenant Harris. He smiled without warmth, stepping into my path with arms folded. "Your reassignment's been processed. You're off evidence detail indefinitely. Take a vacation. Maybe rethink your career trajectory." I kept my tone even. "Under which policy?" He blinked. "Don't play lawyer, Carter. You've been flagged. Consider it a courtesy." "I'll consider it obstruction," I said, already walking past. The elevator felt like a coffin on the way down. No music, no movement, just me and the growing realization that the walls were closing in from above, not below. When I reached my car, there was a sealed envelope on the windshield. No return address. Inside, a photocopy of an internal memo dated the morning after the evidence bag disappeared. Subject: Witness in Miller case recants testimony. Cites fear for safety. Handwritten at the bottom in blue ink. She saw something she wasn't supposed to. That bag held more than evidence. I sat behind the wheel and stared out across the parking lot, trying to make sense of the growing storm. Every piece I uncovered only led to a bigger void. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number message. "If you want answers, check locker 5B before midnight. Come alone? Locker 5B." The old overflow unit in the sub-basement, used for inactive cases, unmonitored, no CCTV, outside of policy 9.3 coverage. I looked up at the gray sky, heart pounding, like it was trying to knock its way out of my ribs. Someone wanted this to end quietly. Too bad I was just getting louder. I parked 2 blocks from the precinct and walked the rest on foot. No badge, no uniform, just an old hoodie, jeans, and a set of keys I hadn't touched in years. Legacy access from my rookie days, when locker overflow still meant paper files and rusted hinges. The back entrance creaked as I let myself in, its hinges groaning like a reluctant witness. The basement lights flickered to life in patches, throwing long shadows down the corridor. It smelled like damp concrete and ink-stained cardboard. A place forgotten on purpose. Locker 5B sat at the far end, half swallowed in shadow. My fingers hesitated on the latch. Whoever sent that message knew I'd come, and they also knew this spot was invisible. No CCTV, no official chain of custody. If I stepped inside, I'd be untraceable. I opened it anyway. Inside, one small gray evidence box, unsealed. No label. I slid it out, careful not to smudge the dust pattern. The lid lifted with a quiet snap. Contents. A bodycam SD card, not mine. A plastic bag containing a torn evidence label, tagged M227349, and a folded note, handwritten in block letters. Watch it, then decide if you're still just doing your job. I stared at the card. There was no reader down here, no terminal. I'd have to go somewhere off-grid to check it. That's when I heard footsteps. Not cautious, not sneaky, just wrong. Too steady, too intentional. I slipped the box into my backpack and turned off the overhead light. The hallway vanished into black. The steps stopped at the threshold of the room. "Officer Carter," a voice called softly. "You're not authorized to be down here." I didn't move. "You've made quite a mess upstairs," the voice continued, calm and amused. "What exactly do you think you're uncovering? Some kind of conspiracy? Some missing bag?" Silence. Then, a metallic clink. Someone unsnapping their holster. I moved, fast, down the side row, into the emergency stairwell, slamming the door behind me. I took the stairs 3 at a time, heart in my throat, sweat freezing on my spine. Whoever that was didn't chase me. But they didn't need to. They knew I had something. And now I knew the feeling of being hunted. Back in my car, I drove to the only safe place I could think of, the old university library 2 towns over. Quiet, mostly empty at this hour, and more importantly, anonymous. I slid the SD card into a public terminal and hit play. The video was silent, time-stamped the night after my last bag entry. Locker 17C, a man in plain clothes, but familiar. I paused, zoomed, Detective Ronson. He approached the locker, entered my access code, and pulled the bag. Then he did something that turned my stomach. He opened it, gloved hands pulled out not just the Miller case items, but a flash drive, labeled only with a number, Dachau 47-09D. He pocketed it. Then he resealed the bag and placed a different tag on it. Sloppy, hasty, not mine. I hit pause. The pieces locked into place. Ronson had staged the whole thing. The deletion, the substitution, the internal whispers about me. But what was on that flash drive? What made the evidence worth burning down a cop's career? I copied the file twice, one to a new drive, one to my cloud. Then I texted Mendez. "I have video, locker 17C. It's not just evidence. Meet me tomorrow." He responded in under a minute. "They're going to come for you now. Be ready." I shut off my phone. They wanted this to be my last move. Too bad I'd just made my first. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into a motel near the edge of the county line. Cash only, no ID, no questions. The kind of place people go when they want to disappear, or when they already have. The room smelled like bleach and forgotten promises, but the locks worked and the Wi-Fi didn't ask for a badge number. I laid the drive on the chipped desk beside the motel's TV. I hadn't dared open the actual footage on the public terminal, just verified the playback. Now, alone in silence, I clicked open the raw file from the flash drive marked 4709D. The screen flickered. A series of low-resolution clips began to play, each one time-stamped, each labeled with internal metadata codes I recognized from my early days in records. But these weren't just ordinary surveillance tapes. They were wiretaps, hidden cameras, interviews. The first showed a man, nervous, eyes darting, inside a precinct interrogation room. Not ours, but close. He whispered names, cases, dates. He mentioned Detective Ronson. He mentioned unauthorized seizures. Then he stopped talking altogether. I clicked the next. A new voice, female, crying softly, talking about how her testimony in the Miller case had been revised, coached under pressure from an officer who said he could make problems go away. Another clip, a blurred-out timestamp. This time it showed what looked like a stash house. Officers, faces unblurred, some I knew, collecting cash, not logging it, laughing as they counted. One of them slapped the side of an evidence bag and said, "This one never existed." I covered my mouth with my hand. My throat burned with a rage so clean it felt like ice. They weren't just deleting chain of custody entries. They were rebuilding the story from scratch. Every piece of evidence that vanished didn't just get misplaced. It was rewritten, weaponized, or wiped, depending on whose career it might inconvenience. And now, they were framing me to keep it all airtight. I backed up the drive to a fresh cloud server, encrypted, duplicated, distributed to a secondary upload list I'd set up for emergencies. I sent the link to Mendez under a coded subject line, "For when silence isn't an option." Then I sent one more email to Deputy Prosecutor Lang. Subject, urgent addendum, subpoena, 11:2. Body, additional visual evidence enclosed, cross-reference with body cam footage and deleted access logs. I am available for sworn testimony. Officer Aisha Carter, send. The motel room felt even smaller after that. My skin prickled with the instinct that eyes were already on me. I bolted the door, checked the windows, slept with my boots on. At 4:22 a.m., my burner buzzed. Mendez. Lang confirmed receipt. IA is frozen, but it's going to get loud. Watch your six. I stared at the screen until the battery died in my hand. They built this system to erase people like me. Quiet, legal, surgical. But I had the one thing they couldn't delete. A record. I showed up to the prosecutor's office in plain clothes. No badge, no belt. Just a drive in my pocket, a folder in my hand, and the certainty that if I didn't walk in now, I might not get another chance. The metal detector buzzed as I passed through. Twice. The security guard, one I vaguely recognized from courthouse duty, glanced at my face, then nodded. Quiet solidarity. Or pity. It was hard to tell anymore. Deputy Prosecutor Lang met me in conference room B. She was younger than I expected. Sharp cheekbones, minimal makeup, blazer too clean for comfort. She didn't offer a smile, just gestured for me to sit and closed the door behind us. "Tell me what you have," she said, voice crisp like a first page of deposition. I slid the flash drive forward. Video footage, deleted chain of custody logs, body cam metadata, and a list of officers with tampered evidence locker access points, cross-matched with internal time card discrepancies. She plugged it into her laptop without hesitation. Her eyes narrowed as the folders opened. Organized, time-stamped, scrubbed of anything personal. Just evidence, nothing more. Who else has seen this? She asked. You, Mendez, and whoever intercepted my locker request, I replied. Maybe Sergeant Fields. Ronson, for sure. Lang clicked through several files in rapid succession. Her face stayed composed, but her breathing changed slightly. That was enough. This goes beyond one case, she said. Miller was the crack in the glass. What's underneath is substantial. They're framing me to bury it, I said. That's not a guess. Lang leaned back, folded her arms. I'll push for protective oversight, but understand, this isn't a quick fix. If we open this formally, it's not just Ronson or Fields on the line. It's procedures, whole departments, politics. I looked her dead in the eye. Good, burn it all, from the locker up. She smiled at that, small, grim. You're going to need allies. Outside, the city buzzed with the sounds of traffic and power lines and sirens, too late to stop anything that already happened. I walked past the front steps and straight into a news van parked across the street. The reporter, local but persistent, spotted me before I could speak. Officer Carter, is it true? You're being investigated for tampering with the Miller case. I stared at her a long second, then reached into my pocket. Here, I said, handing her a USB. No comment yet, but if I disappear, make sure that doesn't. She blinked, stunned, then snatched it like it was made of gold. I kept walking. By the time I got back to my car, I had 3 missed calls, 1 unknown voicemail, and a handwritten note wedged under my windshield. Leave it alone, Aisha. You're not cleared for this level. The arrogance in it was almost laughable. I started the engine, hands steady on the wheel. I wasn't cleared. Good. Then nothing about what came next would be expected. The next morning, my face was on every precinct monitor. Not as a suspect, but as a threat. The internal bulletin didn't use my name directly. It cited unauthorized release of sensitive materials, possible breach of interdepartmental trust, and pending administrative leave. But everyone knew. Every hallway whisper, every half-halted stare. It was all a mirror of the same thing. She didn't play along. I sat in my car across from HQ, watching officers I used to call family walk in under fluorescent lights that now felt radioactive. They weren't all corrupt. Most weren't. But they were scared. Scared of being next. Scared of having to choose between their pension and their principles. I sipped lukewarm coffee, scrolled through my inbox, and opened the message I'd been dreading. From Office of Internal Affairs. Subject, Notice of Immediate Administrative Review. Attachment, Suspension Letter, A. Carter.pdf. The letter was clean, formal, cold. They used words like pending findings and non-punitive, but the subtext was clear. Stay quiet. Go home. Wait for this to blow over. But I wasn't built to wait. I called Mendez. Tell me you have something. He sighed. Lang's prepping an internal indictment file. But she's hitting resistance. Someone higher up, way higher, is stonewalling. Her subpoena trail, disappearing. Disappearing? Magically. Servers rejecting access, files misrouted, classic choke and freeze. Then we go old school, I said. I thought you might say that. We met 2 hours later in an old diner off Route 7. Neutral ground, no precinct ears, no city network, just formica, coffee, and static from the overhead speaker. He slid a folder across the table. Hard copies from a closed investigation you're now accidentally reopening. Inside, reports from 2 years ago. Sealed complaints, evidence chain breaks, anonymous statements mentioning evidence lockers, missing footage, and even a shadow group of compliance enforcers led unofficially by, surprise, Sergeant Fields. One memo chilled me to the core. Operation Gray Ledger. a network of officers who funneled select evidence off-book to third-party handlers, allegedly to protect prosecution integrity. Translation: evidence laundering. Truth: reboxed and resold. One of the side notes scribbled in blue ink. Chakra 4709D, do not let this surface. Could compromise multiple sealed convictions. My flash drive. My case. The Miller bag wasn't just evidence. It was leverage, insurance, a plug in a dam full of suppressed cases, falsified confessions, and tactical removals. And I had ripped it open. I looked up at Mendez. What happens if Lang tries to take this federal? She disappears, he said without blinking. And me? He gave a tired smile. You make it messy first. That night, I sent a secure upload to a civil liberties watchdog group, not everything, just enough to get eyes moving. Then I printed 3 copies of the full report, photos, logs, policy violations, locker entries, and mailed them to 3 very different people. A retired judge with a reputation for scorched earth honesty, a journalist who'd once been sued by the city for unauthorized reporting. My union rep. It wasn't about trust. It was about lighting too many fires to smother at once. The next morning, my email pinged with 2 subject lines that stopped my breath cold. Incoming interview request, Channel 5 investigative. Federal Observer notice, request for preliminary testimony. The tide was turning, but tides pull as hard as they push. It didn't take long for the knock to come, not at my apartment. Too predictable. It came at 6:04 a.m. sharp, at the motel room I'd checked into using a burner alias and a folded $50. The sound wasn't urgent. It was surgical, intentional. I looked through the peephole. 2 men, civilian clothes, one wearing a lanyard that read Observer. No badge, no name. I cracked the door but left the chain on. Yes? We're here regarding the sealed materials you submitted to the Federal Observer's Office, one said calmly. You're being invited to provide early testimony. Off record, for now. Am I being detained? No, ma'am, but you might want protection by the end of the day. I met them at a neutral site, an office building in the legal district, newly leased and smelling like unspoken power. The room was sterile, empty save for a recorder, 2 chairs, and a notepad. I laid everything out, the locker footage, the altered chain of custody, the body cam evidence, the Operation Gray Ledger memo. And finally, the voice messages, anonymous but traceable to internal dispatch logs that had been doctored. One of the observers asked a question that had been simmering at the edge of my mind since this all began. Why you? Why frame you, Officer Carter? I didn't hesitate. Because I logged the truth, and because I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. Silence, scribbling, a nod. Then the other one leaned forward. You understand this can't stay contained. If what you're saying is true, and it checks out, we'll need to freeze evidence divisions, launch audits, possibly reverse convictions. I understand, I said. And I'm not the only one who should be talking. He smiled. We're already tracking some of your friends, Fields, Ronson, even someone at the state level. That's when I realized how far this would go. Not just precincts, not just prosecutors, systems. That afternoon, while driving back to the motel, I spotted a car in my rear view that didn't belong, nondescript, tinted, kept its distance, but never turned away. I turned into a gas station, got out slowly, walked inside, pretended to browse. The car idled out front, still watching. I texted Mendez. Someone's on me, gray Civic, plates partially obscured. He replied, Stay visible. Meet me at 4th and River. You're not going back alone. The Civic peeled off eventually, but not before I memorized the 3 digits visible on its plate. I drove to the meeting point, parked, stepped out, and saw Mendez leaning against a bench, newspaper under one arm, coffee in hand. He handed me the paper. The headline, "Missing Evidence Bag Leads to Internal Shakeup. Officer Carter under review amidst expanding inquiry." I exhaled. That's one way to frame it. "You're the leak and the lighthouse, Aisha," he said. "They don't know whether to bury you or build around you. Let them try." We sat on the bench in silence for a moment. Then I told him something I hadn't said out loud yet. "I think someone was killed over that flash drive." He didn't ask who. He just nodded. "We both knew it already." The first official arrest came 3 days later. Not Ronson, not Fields. It was a mid-level analyst from records, a woman named Elise Danner. Quiet, efficient, the kind you never notice at first glance, which made her the perfect firewall. She was charged with evidence tampering, obstruction, and destruction of public records. Her name was the first domino, and I was the gust of wind that kept knocking the others down. I watched the arrest unfold on Channel 5's live segment. They showed Elise being led from the precinct, her eyes hidden behind dark glasses, her wrists bound but steady. The caption beneath her image read, "First arrest in Operation Gray Ledger Expose." That night, I got a call from Lang. "They're opening the case for public oversight," she said. "Independent review board, federal monitors. You'll be subpoenaed soon as a key witness." "And a target," I added. "You've already survived more than most. We're not letting you stand alone." I didn't sleep much after that. The precinct was on fire, figuratively. Anonymous tips flooded media outlets. Whistleblowers emerged from the shadows, sending old case files, altered logs, and one internal memo that directly implicated Sergeant Fields in deleting a sealed confession from a 2020 homicide case. Ronson? He vanished. Word on the street was he resigned for family reasons and fled state lines. His locker was cleared before anyone could photograph it. But his name echoed in every conversation like a phantom with unfinished business. On the 4th day, I returned to HQ, not through the front door, but by formal summons. IA sat me in a glass room and asked their questions. Polite, pointed. I answered each one with receipts, body cam footage, time-stamped access logs, Policy 9.3 documentation CCTV reports, cross-referenced with falsified entries. It took 3 hours. At the end, the lead investigator folded her hands and said, "You've built an unshakable chain of truth." For the first time in weeks, I believed it. I stepped outside and breathed in a city still learning to be honest with itself. The sunlight felt cleaner. Or maybe that was just hope. Back at my apartment, a plain envelope waited in the mail slot. Inside, a single sheet of paper, typed. "You changed the narrative, but stories can be rewritten. Stay alert." No signature, no return address. But I smiled, because there it was, a threat dressed as fear. And I wasn't afraid anymore. I was prepared. That night, I uploaded my final compilation to 3 encrypted servers. Evidence backups, interviews, logs, sworn affidavits. It had a name. Policy 9.3, the Carter Archive. I shared the access with Lang, Mendez, and one last person, a junior officer just starting out, like I once did. Sometimes survival isn't the goal. Sometimes it's legacy. They erased the bag. I restored the record. And I'm just getting started.